Hi, my name's Andy. I work here at the Great Lakes Science Center in the STEM Learning Department. I wear bow ties because bow ties are cool. Hi, everybody. Science Center is currently closed for the safety and well-being of our guests, staff, and partners, but that doesn't mean the fun and learning has to stop. We're going to bring you live experiences every day at 10:30, including behind the scenes, challenges, design challenges, science experiences, and it's going to be awesome. So come back every day at 10:30. Make sure you subscribe so you get notified whenever we're going live. And today, I wanted to talk about one of the awesome pieces of technology we have here at Great Lakes Science Center. It's right behind me. It is the Skylab 3 Apollo Command Module. It is one of a kind. This went into space in 1973, and it brought 3 astronauts, Jack Loosma, Alan Bean, and Owen Garriott, into space. And they docked with the American Space Station Skylab. Owen Garriott, his son, also went into space. So Richard Garriott, Owen Garriott's son, was the first American whose father also went into space, which is really cool. Looking at the outside, there's a few features that I'm going to talk about. The first thing is the door right up here. This door is really heavily engineered. They had to carefully design this door so that they could open it easily, because for one thing, you don't want it to open too easily in space, because this is protecting you from the vacuum of space, but they wanted to make sure they could open it once they got back home. This thing was designed to stay at the top of a rocket, the Saturn 1B, and it was designed to separate from that rocket and then land in the ocean safely. So the door had to be strong enough that it would stay closed, but also being able to be opened so that they could get out. This was built with Apollo capsules that went to the moon. If it went to the moon, it had to be able to open so that they could do an EVA. EVA stands for extravehicular activity, which means outside of the vehicle. So if they were doing a spacewalk, that is an EVA. If they were walking on the moon, that's an EVA. When Neil Armstrong walked on the moon, that's an EVA. So that's what this was designed for. If you look further into the capsule, you can see there are 3 seats or beds. They're designed so that the astronauts lay down inside the capsule. So here's my question to you. Why do you think the beds are designed so that they were laying down? Why aren't they designed so that people are sitting up? Well, the reason is, this is at the top of a rocket. The rocket has a really strong force coming from below, and we don't want the astronauts to get hurt. So these were designed so that the force would go into their back and push them up. And when they were coming back home, back to Earth, it had to land in the water, and so it crashed in the water. It was okay, obviously, it's still in one piece, but that's a lot of force, and so it had to push on their back so that they wouldn't get hurt. In the back are instrument panels and drawers for science experiments, and there's also room in case one of the astronauts had to get up while they were going into space. Once they were weightless, they could get out of their seats. If they needed to exercise, there's room in the back for them to exercise. There's also a storage area underneath the seats. If they had any experiments from the space station, Skylab, or from the moon, if they were going to the moon, that they could store under those seats. There's also a control panel above those seats with a bunch of different switches and levers and buttons. The astronauts had to know what every single one of those buttons did when they were going into space. And if we pull out At the top here, you can see there's two things that look like barrels at the top. Those were for the drag chutes. So when the capsule was coming back to Earth, 2 parachutes came out of those barrels, and it would slow down the capsule. And then on the sides, there are 3 areas for the main chutes. So those would open up, and it would slow it down even more. So the drag chutes would slow it down, and then the main chutes would open to slow it down even more. Okay, there's another thing way at the top. Way at the top, there's a ring. That ring is the docking port. So that was designed to allow them to connect to the space station Skylab, so that they could leave the capsule and enter the space station from there. And then, once it was connected to the space station, they were able to use it to communicate with Earth. Okay. Oh, why can't we go in it? So this is an artifact right now. It's on display here at Great Lakes Science Center. Right now, it's no longer being used. And the reason why no one's allowed inside is, well, only astronauts are allowed inside. And this doesn't work anymore. This was at the top of a rocket, and it came back home, and it's finished with its purpose. So that's why it's no longer being used. So, with that, that's the front of the capsule, and that's all I have time for. But I have one question for you, and I'm not going to give away the answer just yet. Come back at 3 o'clock, and we'll talk about the answer to this question. And then I'm going to give you a challenge. So I'll ask this question, and then I'll give you a challenge to do between now and 3 o'clock. So here's my question to you. There's a bunch of holes on the capsule. You can see one there, and then there's a couple down here. What do you think those holes were for on this capsule? So that's my question to you, and then here's my challenge. I'm going to challenge you to design a rocket or spaceship that can safely bring astronauts into space and then bring them back home. You can make a drawing, you can make a model out of things you have at home, and share those on social media, tag us, and then at 3 o'clock we'll highlight a few cool designs that people have come up with. So thank you very much for joining me with this capsule chat, talking about the Apollo Command Module here at Great Lakes Science Center. And hope you've had great experience. And I hope to see you again at 3 o'clock. And stay curious.